It's Ravine from Hellohire, and today we're going to be talking about how to hire frontline staff in a tight labor market. I'm going to be showing you how to find the best talent while spending less time, money, and resources on recruiting. I understand that you're probably experiencing hiring challenges caused by a shortage of qualified candidates. And if you are, this will be the most important workshop you attend this year. Who is this workshop for? So if you're hiring people for customer service, sales, or other frontline positions, then this workshop is for you. You're likely an HR professional and responsible for talent acquisition. You know that it's taking more time and effort than ever to recruit. You've tried everything, you're exhausted, and it seems impossible to find the people your team needs in a timely manner. On the other hand, you might sit on the operational side and are worried about hitting your KPIs. After all, it's not about hiring people. You need the right people that are going to excel and stick around. Either way, this workshop is for you. I don't need to tell you this, but hiring is harder than ever. Everybody is hiring, and we're no longer just competing with our own industry. We're competing with other industries, new working models, and new life priorities. Hiring great talent has never been harder. But it's not your fault. With all of the other post-pandemic changes, we've also been hit with a huge change in the job market. We went from having more people than jobs to now having more jobs than people. This is a fundamental shift, and that changes everything. We were told this was because of the pandemic and that when the subsidies ended, everyone would come back to work. But this was just plain wrong. The labor shortage we're experiencing now is real, and it isn't new. It's been a growing problem for over 10 years. It just felt like a punch in the face because of the pandemic. If you take a look at this graph, it shows the number of people voluntarily leaving the workforce every year since 2009. And in 2020, there was so much uncertainty that anyone who had a job held on to it. But in 2021, we went right back to the linear trend. The labor shortage is here to stay. It's our new normal. And this new normal has created a lot of new challenges for us. The most obvious, or the one I hear most, is a lack of qualified applicants. You post your job, you advertise it, you get applicants, but that's not the problem. It feels like people online are just clicking apply, apply, apply. And so you're flooded with a bunch of applicants. But the challenge is, how do you know who's actually interested in the job? And more importantly, qualified for the job? Combing through every resume and application, trying to hunt down every candidate can't be the solution. And another huge problem we're seeing is ghosting. When you finally get in touch with a candidate and book an interview, more than half of the time, the candidate doesn't show up. And candidates are ghosting really for two main reasons. Number one is that we just weren't quick enough and they took a job somewhere else. Or two, they were really never that interested in the job to begin with. On the bright side, you don't want to hire someone who doesn't really want the job, but it shouldn't be at the expense and cost of your time. When candidates keep ghosting over and over, it's super frustrating and demoralizing. And at the end of the day, these challenges are making it impossible to meet our hiring objectives. If we don't fill our open positions, or even worse, if we fill our positions with the wrong people, we'll never meet our business goals and KPIs. The problem is your hiring process. We are doing it all wrong. We're recruiting like we did 50 years ago. And what we're experiencing are the symptoms of an outdated and unfair recruiting process. We're actually pushing candidates away. Any friction, anything we do, any step at all, from the moment a candidate is interested in working for us to when they have an interview, is a problem. We're losing candidates at every single step. And any time that we take in responding or engaging with a candidate is increasing the chances of that person accepting another job. So any delays in scheduling an interview, in aligning schedules, in going back and forth, it's extending the time it takes to meet a candidate, and two things happen. Number one, they take another job, and number two, you block yourself or your time in your calendar on which you could have used for another candidate that is a better fit that does want the job. And this is a vicious cycle. You know, throwing money at ads or hiring more recruiters isn't the answer. Don't get me wrong. We need ads, we need a flow of candidates, and we need to assess them. But if we do things the way we've always done, you're going to be wasting valuable time and money. Here are some of the frequently asked questions I get all the time, and they really paint the picture of the problems that are being felt by a large portion of the industry. The good news is that you're not alone. However, those who have solved the problem are looking at the problem in another way and asking the same questions a little differently. For example, instead of asking, how do we get more applications or how do we get more qualified applicants, we should be asking, how do we make it easy to apply and engage? And instead of asking, how do we stop the no-shows and the ghosting, we should be asking, how do we engage quickly and entice candidates to show up? And lastly, instead of asking, how do we fill our positions when there's so much competition, we should be asking, how do we act fast and hire the best before the competition? How do we beat the competition? And what you really need to do is interview every single candidate as quickly as possible, ideally on the spot or within 24 hours. You need to go straight to the interview without adding any extra work for your team or the candidate. So let that sink in for a second. If someone is interested in your job, interview them, ideally right away. It doesn't make sense for that person to go through hoops, to fill out forms, to do an assessment, to record themselves, to jump through hoops. All of that is friction, and it's causing us to miss out on the best candidates. When we had more people than jobs, we created technology and systems to screen people out. Phone screens, video screens, assessments, AI screening. We did all of that so we'd spend less time meeting candidates with the hopes of only meeting quality candidates. I get it. When you had thousands of people applying for the job, you could do that, but not in today's world. In fact, any screening we do in advance of meeting a candidate is likely flawed. When we look at recruiting the old way, we notice that, we spend hours looking at resumes, conducting phone screens, and going back with scheduling. And then when we interview, we waste hours on no-shows and candidates who we probably knew or could have known early on weren't a good fit. And resumes don't tell us much about a candidate, especially when we're looking for frontline staff. Communication, enthusiasm, and commitment are the most important traits, but it's impossible to assess that from a resume. And so with Hellohire, we help you screen and hire really quickly with speed interviews. And the way speed interviews work is you invite candidates to interview. You conduct 5 to 10 minute interviews with these candidates and capture feedback, assess them, and you filter your candidates for, the best ones and hire. So when you look at speed interviews, you eliminate all of the time that you spend screening and all of the time you waste with interviewing, and really go straight to the interview without any friction for your team or the candidate. So the old way was, again, phone screens. You're constantly chasing candidates, leaving voicemails, and following up with the hopes of booking an interview. With speed interviews, you're bringing the truly interested and qualified candidates without having to do all of that chasing and admin work. And the old way was, scheduling interviews one-on-one. Now, this is why we end up with no shows and recruiters waiting there and delays with the truly interested candidates. And the new way is really one-to-many. Invite a bunch of people and let technology handle the scheduling and the ordering and all of that, so that you're able to meet and engage with interested candidates quickly. And then instead of screening the resume the old way, which is, rejecting candidates or accepting them based on words on a paper or an application, let's actually meet the person face to face and ensure that we're providing a truly inclusive way to assess each person fairly. So when you implement speed hiring or speed interviews or open the doors to more candidates, what you get is from having, from going to a place where you don't have enough candidates to a quick and repeatable way to find the top talent. You go from feeling hopeless and overwhelmed to feeling excited about being able to hire the best. And you go from choosing, from the limit, from choosing essentially what's left, from being able to cherry pick the best. And you go from feeling, held back from lost opportunity to being able to execute on your growth plans. We worked with Pandora and they spent 71% less time recruiting with speed interviews, helping them with their seasonal ramp up and simplifying the process. For example, KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, 81% less time recruiting. And for them, the candidates are coming to them. And Zed is a contact center. They've replaced their phone screening altogether, going from a 2-day to a 2-hour recruiting process. Great people are the foundation to a great business, and we want to help you hire them faster. With Hellohire, your first job is on us. We will help you for free and accelerate your hiring. So again, if you're here for this workshop, you will be able to try Hellohire out at absolutely no cost. Thank you very much. I would love to open the floor up for questions. If anyone has, any questions, comments about speed hiring, about the process, the challenges, I'd love to hear it.
I had a question around the meeting candidates in person. We live in a really, really remote area, Aspen, Colorado, and it's almost impossible to have all of the candidates come to the area. It's very expensive to bring them all here. So what would be the best solution in that case where that doesn't quite fit our model?
Thanks for the question, Michaela. So if I'm hearing the question correctly, you operate in a remote location and it's not feasible to bring candidates, on site to conduct interviews. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. So we will bring candidates on site, like salaried level employees, but when it comes to our frontline staffing, right, where we're hiring in over 1,400 applicants within a certain window, just a couple months, it would be impossible to bring them all on site for a frontline winter seasonal position.
Right. And totally get it. So it's funny, I actually spoke, and it's not the exact same example, but there's a resort about 4 hours from Toronto. Part of the comp package is lodging, accommodation, and they're hiring from essentially across the country for their seasonal time period. They are, from a strategic perspective, so speed interviews are a great way to quickly assess candidates that are applying, make sure that they understand what they're getting into, what the requirements of the position are, and really have that face-to-face conversation. In a scenario like the one you described, there's two real options. One is conduct a second interview, which is a virtual interview, which, where you can get in more depth, understand more of the candidate's experience, and if they're qualified or not. The other is to extend the time of these speed interviews. And so, we see them running anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes. 5 minutes are usually used when you can, when you want to just, do a quick screen and assess high level skills and fit. The 15 minutes are used for making hiring decisions. And so usually, actually, even from 10 to 15 minutes, those you can make the hiring decision at that point. And again, we're seeing a lot of people who, even once they're offered a position, are backing out, or in many cases not showing up. And so, accommodating for that known fact and over hiring, or at least over offering, is something that we're seeing. But I don't know if I answered your question, but I do see two things. One is a longer initial interview if you're able to make that decision, the hiring decision. And the second one is, a shorter interview, and then a second virtual interview to accommodate for more in-depth experience.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I appreciate everyone's time. I am going to send a recorded version of the workshop out, so you will have access to it afterwards. And again, we've got, a video on our homepage, which also shows how speed interviews can work and how sort of functionally they can benefit you. So feel free to check that out as well. And again, your first job is on us. It takes about 5 minutes to get set up. And if you want to try it out and see how it fits into your workflow, we like to say you can get set up on Monday, interview on Tuesday, hire by Wednesday. It's that easy. And so we're happy to provide a free trial for anyone that would like to give it a shot. Again, want to thank everyone for taking their time out to join us, and we will send out the recorded version very soon. Thank you very much.